the 8th video of this section. So let us start with our discussion on static methods and variables. So again, head back to your editor. Right now our objective is to explore the static methods and variables. Well, similar to Java or any other programming language, we have again here the concept of static methods and variables, which we can define it within our class. For example, suppose we have a class of circle, and within this suppose we define a double pi equal to 3.14. So in this case we can convert this instance variable into the static variable by using the keyword of static. Now how to access this pi? So for that we again have some syntax such as class name dot use pi. If you want, you can print it out by using the print statement. Perfect. Launch the application, and there we go, we got 3.14. Perfect. Now you cannot access a static variable with the help of class object. For example, let us create the object of circle and then try to access by using the circle object, circle.py. So in this case the compiler is not happy because we cannot access the static member by using the class object. So in short, just remember, the static variables has nothing to do with the class objects. It is just present within a class and you have to access it with the help of class name directly, like we are doing it here. Let us comment it. And now what about the static methods? So for that, again, suppose we have a method of void calculate area, and there let us define our code calculate area of circle. So how to make this method as a static method? So for that, again, we can use the keyword of static. And similar to the variable, you can call this function with the help of the syntax of class name dot the static method name calculate area. Perfect. If you run the code right now, it will simply execute that method, some code to calculate area of the circle. And similar to pi, you cannot call this function by using the class object like this, such that circle dot calculate area. It is again not allowed in Dart. You cannot access the static members by using the class object. So here again, let us comment it. Right now you must be thinking, what is the advantage of using the static members of variables and methods? Why can't we just make it simple instance variable or instance method and use it within our class? So for that, let us take some example. For now, let us comment it and also comment this statement. And instead of making this static, let us remove the static keyword from here. Perfect. Now suppose we have our circle1, and then suppose we access circle1.py. Now once we create the object of circle, so in the memory this pi variable will be instantiated and it will consume some memory. Now based on the machine in which your Dart programming is running, let us assume it takes 4 bytes. And suppose we create another object of circle2 and again use circle2.py. So in this case, it will again consume 4 more bytes. Now altogether, overall, we are consuming 8 bytes of memory. Let us assume that. But the variable pi is always same in all the cases of each of the circle, such as its value should always be 3.14. And also this value can be utilized in some other classes as well, because the value pi is globally constant. Its value is always 3.14, right? So why to waste 4 bytes of extra memory when we just want to instantiate for only once as 3.14? We don't have to instantiate it again and again and allocate memory to it. So here comes the static variable into picture. Now when we use the keyword of static, so in that case this pi when used will only be instantiated only once, such as suppose here if we use circle.py, then it will actually consume 4 bytes. But next time suppose if I use circle.py again, then in this case no more memory will be allocated because it was once instantiated and so it will be reused. So this is the advantage of using the static variables. It consumes memory only once. And the same thing applies for this calculate area method as well. If you make it static, it will consume the memory only once. Now one more thing I would like to add here. As said, the value pi is always globally constant. That is, its value never changes from 3.14 to some other value. Now by mistake, suppose a developer accidentally changed the value of pi, such as circle.pi. Suppose he makes the value as 6.14, something like this. So in that case, the value of pi will be changed from 3.14 to 6.14. So for that, let us test it out. Print the value of pi here, and then after this, let us print the value of pi after the value has been changed. Launch the application, and here we have some problem. Let us comment these two statements because they are not allowed in Dart. Launch the application again. So here if you notice, our original value was 3.14, but now it is 6.14. So we have to avoid that. So for that we have something called constant keyword as well. So here after static we can use constant double pi equal to 3.14. Now when we do so, the compiler here will simply complain that you cannot change the constant value. So in this way you can avoid some mishappening by some other developer who touches your code, and no one on this earth will be able to change the value of pi. Perfect. And now similarly you can define more static variable such as static, let us assume int max value of the radius. So the radius should not exceed 5, something like this. And if you want, you can again make it constant, but right now let us keep it flexible. That is, you can change the max radius value anytime in your program. Now let us take a step ahead and discuss more about the static methods. So for that, suppose within the class of circle we have a normal instance member such as my normal function. Let us call it as like this. So from this normal function, can we call this calculate area? Let us try it out. Let us use the syntax of circle dot calculate area. Perfect. So from inside the normal function, we can actually call the static function like this. But can we call this function from within the static function? Let's check that out. So for that, let us use my normal function. And here the compiler is not happy. It says that the instance member can't be accessed from a static method. That is, you cannot call any normal function that belongs to the instance of the class from this static function like this. It is not allowed. And also comment it. And also suppose if we have some member function of string color, that is the color of the circle. So for that, can we access this color from inside the static function? Let's check that out. So for that, let us use this dot color, and here again we have some problem that you cannot access the instance variable from inside the static function, which is again not allowed. So for that again, let us write the comment statement. Perfect. So you cannot use this keyword within the static function and even cannot access the instance variable of the class. It is not allowed. But from the normal function, you can access anything and everything, such as this dot color equal to, let's call it red, something like this, or you can call the static function, or you can even access this static constant as well by using the syntax of circle dot pi, or you can use circle dot max radius. Now one more thing you can note here is that since we are within the same class of circle, so you can actually skip this circle part. This way also your code will work perfectly fine, such as print statement of pi. Perfect. So in the end, let us summarize what we have learned so far in this video. Now the static variables are also known as the class variables. Just make a note of that. Similarly, the static methods are also known as the class methods. And since we know that the static members are memory efficient, so the static variables are lazily initialized. The lazy initialization means that they are not initialized until they are used in the program. So when you use any static member, then only it will consume the memory, and that too once. So here is the point for that. And next, the static methods has nothing to do with the class object or its instance. That is, you cannot use the this keyword within a static method. It is not allowed, as we saw in our video. Now moving forward, from a static method, you can only access the static method and the static variables. But you cannot access the normal instance variable and the methods of a class from the static method. It is not allowed. Like we saw in our example here. From the static method, we were not able to call the normal function as well as accessing the instance variable. So with this, we have reached the end of this section. Well, this was a pretty long section, isn't it? So let us summarize what we have learned so far in this section. Firstly, initially in this section, we checked out what are default getter and setter and how to define our custom getter and setter in Dart. Next, we explored inheritance in Dart along with valid demo sample code. Proceeding, we also saw how to override the methods during inheritance. And also we explored how to use constructors during inheritance by using both default and named constructor in the child class as well as in the parent class. Moving, we checked out what are abstract classes and methods and how to use them. And then we explored how to implement interface in Dart. Now in the end of this section, we explored what are static methods and variables. So congratulations once again, we have successfully completed one more section. So hope to